I'm here to talk about the books I read in January. I read The Essential Dykes to Watch Out For, which is the collection of Alison Bechdel's comic. I really loved this. It was interesting because I was the same age. I'm dead. I am the same age as one of the characters, the son that's born to a couple, and that was bizarre, seeing things like AIM and I guess video games and proliferation of phones, cell phones kind of coming into life, and it spans from the 80s through, or the comic strip spans from the 80s to 2008, so that's really exciting because it includes my life. Okay, I recommend it. Highly recommend. If you haven't read it, do it. Just, enjoy it. Okay, next, tell me how it ends. This is, it was much shorter than I thought it was going to be. I read it as an ebook. Shout out to Libby. We love Libby. And this is about immigration rights and the sort of power of student groups in this movement and fight. I think it's worth your time, especially because it is concise. I didn't think it was too repetitive. I think it came at the and this is mostly about Mexican immigration, I should say, as well, but overall I think it gives you a decent picture and gives you threads to pick up on and do your own then further reading and understanding and connecting. Okay, I also read Florida by Lauren Groff. I've read a lot more short stories and kind of, different collections of that kind lately. So that fits this category. And overall, I think it tells some compelling, even though it's set in Florida, these are human stories. I don't think they necessarily had to have a Florida setting. I liked it, and I will read other Lauren Groff. I don't know that I have much else to say beyond I do want to revisit the last short story in particular. That really spoke to me, and I'm curious how it would speak to me if I were actually who I envision as the intended audience, which is like a new mother. I listened to Homie by Denez Smith, who's a local, grew up, still lives in, as far as I know, St. Paul. I really could tell Smith has a connection to this place and the people of the place, and that's really special. I really love being invited in to that. Maybe you should talk to someone. This is, the subtitle is A Therapist, Her Therapist in Other Lives Revealed. Cut out a third of her story because I didn't feel invested as much in her own journey as I think she wanted readers to be. I cared a lot more about the relationship she was forming with her patients and her clients, and kind of how she was helping them on their journeys to heal and be well. And I didn't care if she was well in that process, which sounds terrible, but I think it's because the second act took this weird turn, and I was supposed to, you never, your revelation's your revelation. It's never gonna mean as much to another person as it means to you personally, because it's life-changing. Could be life-changing, but I wish she would have just let that be. She spelled out way too much, I thought. Give me some credit. I can put the pieces together of how you went from, a very unhappy, sort of stressed out, frazzled mother and partner to then this, brilliant therapist, I guess. She also is someone who had she was like, oh yeah, I met George Clooney. I don't know. She apparently, had a first life as a med student, and was she just in residency and she was like part of ER? I don't remember that bit, again, because I wasn't as invested. I really loved the woman so one of her clients who became much more connected to her neighbors and the community, and that was really special. And she was an artist, and she was letting herself flourish there, but also romance, kind of learning how to be open to intimacy after a lot of hurt and trauma. Yeah, that was really special. So, I don't know, skip over her sections and just get to the heart of it. I also went and read, she wrote, I don't know, a column for The Atlantic, I think. But yeah, this book really affirmed that I care about therapy, I care about the kind of art or the science of it, caring profession and all that, and I want to read more. I read The Shallows, which is What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. This was an interesting read. It definitely gave me some, I wouldn't say new insights, but it gave me new ways to articulate those insights. It was definitely scary. I mean, just because it was written in 2010 or something, and definitely predicted so much of the privatization of the internet and commodification of communication platforms and what that has done. And I think everyone should read it. A Mouth is Always Muzzled. This was a hyper focus on Guyana. I liked the first couple. I liked like the first two essays and maybe the fifth essay. And for such a short book, like it retreaded a lot of ground. The subtitle, 6 Dissidents, 5 Continents, and the Art of Resistance, it talked about the sugarcane plantations and how companies were extracting that labor and resources from the indigenous and native communities and the land. And anyway, read it yourself to decide. Definitely, I want to make an effort to learn more, especially stories from the Global South, and just be more educated on that and those histories, because those histories of resistance, I think, will help inform how we continue to resist and fight against colonialism today. All right, I read Fake Accounts. This woman finds out that her boyfriend is actually a, online conspiracy theorist, but gives no indication of that in real life, supposedly. I don't know. I'm just like, this is terrible. Like, oh. And I think it's very visceral because this is going on a tangent, but the sort of incredible sort of reproductive rights are being threatened. I need to go get an IUD. Suddenly I need to rethink, like dating and relationships. I can't trust anyone. Who'd you vote for? This sort of paranoia and that general heightened sense of like vigilance. It was a moment of hypervigilance, I think, on the part of women, especially white women, that really wasn't, it was necessary, but it wasn't. Like sudden sense or urgency to recalibrate, and I just wasn't convinced that people were recalibrating to a way that like actually meant the health and well-being and prioritizing the lives of people who their well-being is only going to get even worse under Trump. Lastly, I just finished Warmth, which is written as a letter to an unborn child. The author, what's his name? Daniel Sherrill was, why do I keep saying is a climate activist. This is a book about the end of the world and what we should be doing, who we should be turning to, and I thought it was a decent exploration. There were parts that I think were a little bit hand-wringing, like, oh no, like, whoa. Overall, I almost gave it 3 stars. I was almost like, I could have not read this book. This book gives me energy and excitement to read it from a queer perspective, because he does bring in queer theorists, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And a couple times, not just kind of the one token time, but he himself's not queer, so that was good, that inclusion. But I really want to center, queer futurism when it comes to thinking about the world. Okay, those are the books I read. Any books that I'm still currently reading, which is like 5, I'll just talk about in February. Tell me in the comments below what books you're reading, what books you recommend. Okay, bye!